We're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, we're talking about maps, we're talking about Star Wars.
Oh boy.
We're really in it today.
It doesn't take much to dredge up Last Jedi drama.
Dude's 900 years old.
I'm sure he's dabbled.
Yeah, he dabbles in psychometry.
It's a joke.
It's a little joke. That's how Vader does it. I'll get you. What's up, everyone, and welcome to Last Week in Star Wars. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
And last week, we started on a project I've been wanting to do for a while now. We filmed our very first tabletop role-playing session.
Mm-hmm.
I GM'd for the very first time.
And I played for the first time in a long time.
I think this is your second time technically playing a Star Wars RPG game.
I think so. And the first time was like a one-off, kind of just, we tried it one day.
Yeah. But you've played D&D a handful of times. I'm in an ongoing D&D game. I've also played some Star Wars RPG with the guys over at JodoCast. But yeah, I wanted the challenge of GMing, and we're going to record it. I don't know exactly what we're going to do with this recording because a lot of it is testing out equipment and how we're going to film it. Like, I do want this to be a thing in the future.
I think we've decided that we're going to start a brand new channel once we do decide to start uploading the game sessions. But right now, it's still very much in the testing stage.
Yeah, that's way off in the future. What was your experience playing?
It was fun. I didn't really know what to expect because the rules that we're playing by are a lot more lenient than, I guess, the previous games that I've played. What's the rule system called?
We're playing with Kids on Bikes / Teens in Space. It's basically the same system written by the same people, but yeah, it's very rules light, which I thought would be helpful for me as a first-time game master.
Yeah, and especially just the fact that we're filming this for the first time, and we're having a lot of firsts with this game, so it's been great so far.
I had a great time. I was nervous to run a game, but when we finished, I was like buzzing. I thought it went really well. It was like an hour-and-a-half session, but it flew by really fast. The table, we were all pretty good at like improving, I think, and we were basically improvising using dice, which that's what D&D is, but this is a lot less math.
Yeah, which is great for me. Everyone at that table has either taken improv classes or done some sort of theater or both. So I think we're all friends, and we have been friends for a long time, so I think we're all pretty comfortable with each other, riffing on jokes and just kind of like improvising whatever we need to do.
But yeah, that is something we're currently working on. We're planning our second session. I'm editing the first session just to see how that goes. Again, I'm sure we'll do something with this, whether we just put it up on our Patreon for feedback or something, but it is a project I'm excited that we finally actually started. But moving into last week in news, let's just keep talking about very nerdy things, because StarWars.com created an interactive, high-resolution map of the galaxy. People are very excited. I'm very excited.
I think this has been in the works for a long time. Jason Fry is the one who kind of like put it out there and I think designed it, put all the information together for it.
This is very much his wheelhouse. He did the old Star Wars Atlas back in the day, and he's been answering some questions on Blue Sky, which is fun. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like having a fully, not just updated map, but an updatable map. I've enjoyed all of the visual dictionaries that have come out, and they add new planets, or they'll show at least the relevant planets. I remember when Costco got like their own version of Star Wars Timelines that came with the most detailed map at the time. I was like, ugh, I have to get another version of this book. I have like
Costco,
5 copies
really?
of that book. I wanted just that very high quality map, and I'm just like, okay, thank goodness. Like, they just officially put one out. I'm so happy that I can look up where any planet is.
It was just fun kind of like going through the map and seeing like some of the really outskirts planets, but also seeing how close certain planets were to other planets, like how close Ad-Atten is to Dathomir.
Right. Just like right around the corner from a total nightmare planet. Those kids could have... It's a good thing SM-33 took them to Port Borgo.
Right. They could have gone much worse places.
Could have gone way worse. But yeah, that's always the fun part to me, is seeing like new planets coming out. Also, people have already been theorizing. This kind of reminds me of back in the day when Starkiller Base was positioned right at the same spot as Ilum on the map, and everyone's like, hey, hang on a second, and started to put that together well before Fallen Order confirmed it. Now I think the unnamed planet is put in one spot in the Acolyte visual guide, but then if you look on this map, Baldimnik is in that same spot. So people are like, okay, we're like connecting some Legends dots here.
I didn't see that. Was that theorized back when the show was on?
Yeah, because of the Cortosis vein and its connection to Plagueis and the novel Darth Plagueis, people are like, that might be Baldimnik. And so now this is another like drop in the bucket of like, that's probably Baldimnik.
Yeah, and a lot of the same people work on the visual dictionaries and the maps and stuff, so I'm sure they're dropping hints.
And I bet there's a lot of other stuff like that we could sift through and find out. I still think it's funny. Like, Rakata Prime is one of the planets that was included in the very first canon map, back when there weren't that many planets on it. And everyone was like, what's Rakata Prime doing here? And like, it's still in there, but at least now it's had some mentions in Andor and stuff.
What else was cool in there? There was a couple people talking about the fact that Exegol is really close to like Chiss space.
Yeah.
So they were like, I wonder if the Chiss ever knew about Exegol or ever went there. It's cool to think
they
about
like
that.
Showed up there like, no, that doesn't look cool.
Looks a little creepy for us.
Pass.
Also, I didn't realize how far away Pabu actually was.
Oh yeah, that's another fun one. That's finding all the new planets that we've heard about and finding them on the map, but Pabu way out there.
Way out there.
Which is nice. I mean, they wanted to be kind of remote and safe, and I guess that's another reason why the Empire doesn't bother to go take them over. It's like, it's way out there. All they have is fish.
What was Ad Akron on there? Or just Ad Atten?
I did not think to look for that one.
Because aren't
so
they
I'm not sure.
Supposed to be close?
We don't know. They're just the jewels of the Old Republic. So yeah, like that's a good question to ask is, are they right next door to each other, or was Ad Akron across the galaxy? I didn't think to look.
Along with the interactive map, you can also just see them all listed out.
Right.
Which is nice because you can find the planet, you can find the planet's sector, and like the division on the map that it's at.
The grid location. That's key. That's important, and very nice that they included all that, so you don't have to like search around for, if you want a specific planet, you can go find it.
So for all you map nerds out there, go check it out.
We're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, we're talking about maps, we're talking about Star Wars.
Oh boy.
We're really in it today. Other than that, it was a really slow news week once again, so we're going to dredge up some Last Jedi talk, because Mark Hamill was
We're dredging it up because he dredged it up.
Right. Mark Hamill was on a podcast, and he was talking about, his regret for talking about his disappointment, his disagreement with Luke's character arc in The Last Jedi, but also wanted to talk about his own ideas for Luke's backstory, kind of his rationalization for why Luke went that way. And it was dark. Like, it took I was like, oh, this is interesting, and then took like a sharp left turn. I was like, oh, whoa, no.
So I made up a much, much darker backstory that I thought could justify him being that way. What could make someone give up a devotion to what is basically a religious entity, to give up being a Jedi? Well, the love of a woman. So he falls in love with a woman. He gives up being a Jedi. They have a child together. At some point, the child, as a toddler, picks up an unattended lightsaber, pushes the button, and is killed instantly. The wife is so full of grief, she kills herself.
Yeah, it seemed like he was kind of iffy on bringing it up in the first place, but then in the interview, he said he mentions that he came up with his own backstory to explain, like why Luke would become this like suicidal hermit, is his words.
Right.
And then he's like, "Do you want to hear it?" Like, he gave a little tease, and then after they got done talking about it all, he was kind of like, "That's a scoop for you. That's a special exclusive for you." And I was like, "Oh, Mark."
He started talking about it, and he mentioned having like a wife and a family. And at that point I was like, oh, okay, this makes some sense. It tracks with Legends. But then he talked about basically leaving his child unattended and it dying with a lightsaber. And I was like, okay, that's too much.
Yeah. I mean, I understand he was purposefully trying to go to a dark place in his mind to explain why Luke would go off and live this life as a hermit, because he does say that, like, when he was reading the script and getting an idea for what The Last Jedi was going to look like, he was thinking that in his mind Luke would have more resolve than ever and, like, want to get in the fight even more so. And so he does talk about just having that disagreement with Ryan, but also he says, you know, he was going to do the best job he could to make Ryan's story work.
Which I think he delivers a great performance.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, he said, like, I want to clear up any confusion, and said that he's a big fan of Rian Johnson, and he spoke very highly of him and his work. You know, I think people are taking this story and kind of running with it, but it's just a small chunk of the interview. And I think the interview itself is mostly to promote Life of Chuck.
Sure.
But it's Mark Hamill, and he can't do any interview without being asked Star Wars questions.
That's like the curse of being in any Star Wars thing.
Right. I do think it's interesting that he says, you know, he wishes he had just kept his mouth shut, basically, about his thoughts and feelings on it, because he thinks it may have colored other people's opinions on the film before, you know, they got a chance to really let it sink in.
Yeah, there's that, but more, I think, just his words were weaponized so much. And, like, I don't think he said that. I remember him saying it, I think, on the Last Jedi panel at Star Wars Celebration 2017. And we were watching it streamed from our hotel room, I think. But I remember him saying that and, like, leaning in, being like, oh, as in that kind of got me even more excited about what we were going to see. Mm-hmm. It got me intrigued more than anything, but after the fact, after the movie came out, people were using it to, like, say how much Mark hated Ryan.
Yeah.
Which is why he now is like, I love Ryan.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of why he talked about this. Maybe he didn't want to say that his words were weaponized, but I think that's basically what he's saying.
And he has talked about this in the past before. But now he got to drop his juicy little backstory tidbit.
I mean...
Which is, again, going to become like a headline across the internet.
Sure. And it's just funny because to him, he probably doesn't think anyone really cares at this point. It's been so long since The Last Jedi's been out. But I don't think Mark really gets how much the internet...
holds on to things.
How much the internet...
go.
Holds grudges, and specifically for that movie, for
Right.
The Last Jedi. So it doesn't take much to dredge up Last Jedi drama. I do want to say, I think his backstory is pretty bad. Just my opinion. I don't think it would have worked. Not really for Star Wars. Maybe, like, for a Legends story, because it does get very, very dark. And I understand Mark, you know, wanting to add several more layers to the character of Luke Skywalker, but he also talks in the interview about, you know, talking to George about Luke, and George being like, this movie is for kids, it's not that deep. And, you know, Mark had to kind of grapple with that idea. So he talks about just having to deal with the idea of the character of Luke Skywalker not being that deep of a story, but it makes sense that an actor would want to really go there.
Yeah, I understand him bringing that up into his mind for his motivation, because he is an adult playing an adult character, and even if that stuff weren't going to be on screen, if it helps him in the performance, then that's fine. It reminds me of Edward James Olmos on Battlestar. We've been to several Battlestar Galactica panels at DragonCon, and people have talked about how he was always pushing to make things darker and darker and worse, and the showrunners were like, this is already a pretty dark, bleak show. Like, let's pump the brakes, Eddie.
Yeah.
Moving into last week in canon, we got 2 new comic issues, The High Republic Adventures 19 and Legacy of Vader issue 5. You read both of them this week, so which one do you want to talk about first?
It's nice having a little extra time to actually sit down and read the comics that come out each week. But let's go with Legacy of Vader because I think that's my favorite of the 2.
Okay. What did you like about it?
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It makes Kylo Ren look even crazier than you could ever really imagine. It's always fun to see Hux and Kylo have their, like, sassy little rapport with each other. You said you weren't sure how you felt about this issue.
This Naboo arc, well, the series in general, I feel like has been just moving really fast, where if you compare it to, like, Charles Soule's Darth Vader run, each arc was about 5 issues. And then I keep thinking that, this first arc is going to be about Kylo going to Tatooine. And then that was resolved in 2 issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, we're going to go to Naboo. And it's resolved in 2 issues. And I don't know, I would just be down to spend a little more time on all these things because it's introducing interesting stuff like Kylo being captured by Gardula the Hutt and that weird little rock force user thing.
Yeah.
They were both dealt with off screen. And I was like, wait, what is that though? So it's just moving very quickly. The issue itself, I mean, how long would you say it takes place over? Because it feels like it could take place over weeks or months even, but
yeah,
like there are these kind of montage of panels and things he's doing. Basically, he invaded Naboo just so he could go down to Naboo, join the Resistance, and fight the First Order.
Well, I don't think that's why he did it.
I mean, like, that is what's happening.
That's
though.
what's happening. So, yeah, he decides he's going to be king of Naboo.
Uh-huh.
Big weirdo energy, I guess. But, Hux is asking him, like, are you sure you want to do this? I feel like we have issues that need to be resolved elsewhere. He gets this, like, weird fascination with Naboo. And then he finds out that the people of Naboo aren't really putting up much of a fight to the First Order being there. They're kind of just like, oh, what's going on? Like, what is this? And, they're the First Order. So I guess a lot of the people of Naboo are like, okay, I mean, I don't know what we can do about this. And that pisses off Kylo Ren to the point where he decides to go down to Naboo and kind of in disguise,
barely.
like barely in disguise, become this like weird vigilante who is there to inspire the people of Naboo to rise up against the First Order. So he's creating this like fight for himself that he wants to play both sides of. Well, it's kind of like, he reminds me of a guy who just wants to play himself in chess because he feels like he can't find a good enough partner to play with.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And Vinay says as much. He's like, you're making all of these really contrived, roundabout ways of fighting yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, you want to invade Naboo and then join the Resistance so you can fight the First Order and therefore kind of fight yourself. And he's like, I get it.
Of which you are supreme leader of.
Yeah, he says, I get it. Vader, hated himself at the beginning too, which then makes Kylo so mad he pops Vinay's little, head ball off.
I know, I was worried about him.
I like how much you like Vinay.
Don't pick on him, he's trying to help him.
Would you call him an antique?
Yeah, I said he was an antique because he's very old, and it's really just his head that's left with the Bomar monk machine body.
He's still a very creepy, evil man, though.
Yeah, and he drops a hint of there's something that he wants to give to Kylo Ren, and it's on Mustafar
when he's ready.
In Vader's castle when he's ready, and he says that Kylo would never be able to find it on his own. Like, he has to have his help, which is classic bad guy behavior.
Yeah, can't kill me yet. Yeah. So he'll just tease it out, and hopefully it's worth something that Kylo is actually excited about.
Yeah, and just the way that Vinay is acting and how he's just dropping these little life lessons for Kylo, sometimes about him, sometimes about Vader, but it's very kind of roundabout, and it just makes me think that if this thing on Mustafar, what if it's just a mirror? And he's holding it up, and he wants Kylo Ren to just reflect on himself. And like that
the power was in you all along, Kylo.
If it is something stupid, I guarantee Kylo Ren is going to kill Vinay.
Yeah.
I mean, he might do it anyways.
Yeah, I'm not certain Vinay makes it out of this alive.
Sadly, I do not think so. But I think if Vinay could choose a way out, it would be by the hands of, you know, the legacy of Vader.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the way we saw him thanking Vader for force choking him, he's like, maybe he would thank Kylo for freeing him. It's just a very interesting turn of events. Like, the series has been, like I said, just very fast and putting out interesting ideas that I wouldn't mind spending more time on. But we're next headed to, basically, Vinay is like, stop playing chess against yourself, find an enemy worthy of your time, and hinting towards, I mean, Charles Soule has already said Kylo's going to go fight a survivor of Order 66. So there's a Jedi out there somewhere.
Yeah. This series is probably tough for fans of Kylo Ren because, like I said, it really does make him out to be much crazier than the films portray him. And, like, he kills...
he kills all those Naboo people.
He kills this resistance group on Naboo that he himself has created. And he just gets frustrated with them, with himself, with the whole situation with Vinay, and he kills all of them and leaves. And I'm just like, God, like, we know he's a bad person, but it's really getting into the nitty-gritty of that.
Yeah. Well, jumping back in time a couple hundred years, let's talk about the High Republic Adventures issue 19. This is the penultimate issue of this series. There's only one left. You're still in the middle of Trials of the Jedi.
Yeah, I'm past the halfway point, but reading this issue was a little confusing for me because I just haven't been keeping up with this series in particular. So I was trying to like understand when it was happening in regards to Trials.
Right.
So.
And it's basically concurrent at the same time. Based on what you told me about where you're at, it sounds like this issue picked up at a decent spot because you were reading about the Battle of Iriadu, and then this issue kind of concludes the ground portion of the battle.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the issue a lot. I go back and forth on the art style of it, but I will say that most of the panels in this issue just had a lot going on. Like, a lot of drawings, a lot of color. Just, I mean, you have to portray a huge battle. So I do think I really liked the art in this one.
It is the all ages comic. I don't know if that makes it lean into, extra color, brighter colors, stuff like that, just to keep everyone engaged. But I do like their splash pages a lot.
Who is the character that ends up with Emmerich in this issue?
Yeah, that's the big thing I wanted to talk about is Emmerich and Cyan Holt. So that's Emmerich Kafdor, the Jedi. Cyan Holt is a musician / private detective, basically. And they worked together in the comic Trail of Shadows. So that was a High Republic Phase 1 series, 5 issues. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite Star Wars comics. And those two characters are kind of like floating around each other romantically. They end the series with a hug. Like, they don't know each other that well, but you can tell there's some things developing. I was really hoping we'd get a Trail of Shadows 2 in Phase 3. They've kind of popped up here or there in other High Republic Adventures comics. They've just never really gotten to be the focus again. And I was like, I'm glad we got a conclusion for them in this issue.
Yeah.
But I was like, I liked them so much in Phase 1. I wish that they had like 5 more issues that were just theirs.
Yeah, I mean, she has some really good stuff in this issue about just like, she talks about, she gets shot, and so then she's kind of like talking about how she wishes she had told Emmerich about her feelings, and she says stuff like about all the walls that she had put up for herself to avoid attachments actually ended up causing more attachments to be made, and there's all this stuff about that. And then, at the end of the issue, they are able to see each other again and they kiss, and everybody's like, finally.
Whee! There are some fun jokes kind of earlier in High Republic Adventures where they tease Emmerich about having a girlfriend, and it's like all the younger Jedi and Padawans are like, "Where's your girlfriend?"
Aw. I mean, that's one of the things I like most about the High Republic is they're able to show these relationships of Jedi and Jedi, or Jedi and like other people. They're able to show love, and that's just really nice to see.
And it's just like they say in this issue, love without attachment. And if you go back to Temptation of the Force, the novel, we see Avar and Delzar basically tell Yoda what's going on between them, and he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, just like, don't let it become, don't follow the dark side because of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, neat.
I mean, it's the same advice anyone gives anyone else when they find out they're in a relationship. I mean, it's like, yeah, don't let it ruin your life, but I'm happy for you.
That's what everyone says when, when you find out
essentially,
your friends. I'm happy for you.
Yeah. Yay. Congratulations. It's all ending with a question mark.
But that's it for last week in canon. Next week, we're going to get new issues of Jedi Knights, Ghost Agents, and Codebreaker, the Poe Dameron comic. But for now, we'll move into last week in questions. And our first one is from Nick Waterfill, who asks if any Force user can learn psychometry, or do they have to be born with the ability?
I'm sure if you tried hard enough, you could try to learn. But have we seen anyone learn the skill?
So I don't think we have, seen a story where someone learned to do it over time. Like, that's never been the focus. But we have, as of late, seen more psychometric users. Is that a word? It is said to be a rare ability. Like, Quinlan Voss has it, Cal Kestis has it, and it's supposed to be, like, not something you see often, but we've seen Ahsoka use it, we've seen Rey use it. I don't imagine there is some, like, exclusive club where you have to be born with it. It's like anything in the Force. I'm sure Cal and Quinlan were born just gifted at doing this thing, but, like, are you going to tell me if Yoda... I'm trying to think if Yoda has ever used psychometry, but, like, dude's 900 years old. I assume he would be able to do something along those lines.
I'm sure he's dabbled.
Yeah, he dabbles in psychometry.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about the idea that, like, I always thought any Jedi could learn to become a Force ghost. Like, that over time got to a point where it's like, okay, we can say that you didn't necessarily need this very special training for it. In Rise of Skywalker, Rey talks about learning to Force heal. So, like, Grogu, for instance,
gifted at it.
May have been just really good at that from the start, even though he is 50 when he does it. Maybe he was trying to learn it. But the idea of just learning different Force abilities, I think, does exist. And so I don't see why it wouldn't work for this too. I
mean, I see a lot of Force powers as, like, the Matrix almost, where you have to first believe that you can do it and, like, visualize the fact that you're in an environment that allows for you to stop bullets or fly or whatever. People always ask things like, how far away can you use the Force? Like, can you Force choke someone from across the galaxy? And, like, yeah, we have seen Palpatine do that through a hologram to Dooku. So, like, it's possible, but I think it's just hard to visualize that. And that's probably why he does it through a hologram.
You have to be really, really focused on being a Sith, and that's what Palpatine is.
But I think it also helps to, like, be able to see the person through a hologram. Otherwise, you're just sitting there using your imagination, like, trying to Force choke this person. It's also... Force users don't need to use their hands to push things or to choke or lift things.
To choke?
The little choke. That's how Vader does it. I'll get you. You don't have to use your hands, but it helps the visualization of using the Force. But you could just sit there and make something float.
Right. And it not only it helps within the story, it helps visually for the viewers to, like, see what's happening. Ultimately, it's more about that, I think.
So I think psychometry, it does make sense to me that that would be a difficult gift, a talent to hone, because yeah, touching an object and learning its experiences, that sounds so foreign to me. But I mean, I guess it doesn't sound foreign to Quinlan Voss, and he's like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. He's able to visualize what that means and what it looks like.
If you're trying to learn how to do this ability, it may help to like find something that you know has a very storied past.
Right.
Because if I were to like concentrate on this and try to, it would probably just be me seeing the manufacturer warehouse where it came from and then be sitting on our shelf for years. So that may not help me learn how to do something like that. But if you're trying to do it with a lightsaber or something, like that would be more helpful.
Right. Or in Star Wars, in Fallen Order, when Cal takes Trilla's lightsaber and she's like, careful, that's been through hell. Like, he can't even control.
Yeah.
It just happens to him automatically.
Yeah. Which is interesting, yeah, because if you're a Sith, you could like trick a Jedi into holding something that is like really dark. I mean, it's kind of like Momin's mask almost.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good link to make, because Vader views all of Momin's history through the mask. It's helped because Momin kind of possesses him and tries to make him put it on. But if you go to Rey, she uses psychometry, but it is a dagger that killed not just people, but her parents.
Yeah,
and,
she has
like,
a pretty close link there.
So I think that there are different levels of psychometry, different reasons that someone might be able to sense an object's past and history. It's not just like this, you can either do it or you can't thing.
What is there an object that you feel like would really spark your ability to use that power? I feel like mine would be something like the Diddy Kong Racing cartridge. Like that would spark a lot of memories for me, or like something that we grew up using a lot. That's
a good explanation of what psychometry really is an object that's personal to you. Like my old Game Boy, holding the old gray brick. I mean, that was my gaming system when I was young. So if I had one of those in my hands, just images would come flooding back, I'm sure. Hello Asti asks, what non-High Republic Star Wars book from the past 2 years would we recommend people read?
Ooh, Rise of the Red Blade.
See, that's my problem, is I can't remember what has come out in the past 2 years specifically.
Oh, maybe that wasn't...
But that is fairly recent.
2 years?
Yeah.
What have I read in the past 2 years that hasn't been High Republic?
Having to go back and be like, what came out? So the first two that popped into my head, I know came out in the past year. First was The Mask of Fear.
Sure.
Because it's Alexander Freed, and you should read everything he's written. And then also The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire by Dr. Chris Kimshall. Like, both are great. Both are relevant. Especially with Andor coming out. But everything going on in the world right now, both of them are good reads that, will help you see things through the Star Wars lens, which I think is always helpful.
I did kind of start Mask of Fear, and I do want to read Rise and Fall. I might try to read Rise and Fall after I get done with Trials, because like once we got the copy of Trials, I was like, okay, I have to focus and read this because I'm gonna be at that book club.
Yeah.
I don't think Rise of the Red Blade was in the past 2 years, but it's close enough.
It feels close. Like, honestly, at this point, it could have been 5 years ago, but I'm still like, I don't know. It might have been 2.
I mean, I will always sing the praises of Delilah Dawson and her writing in Star Wars or elsewhere, but it's a really interesting book. You get to see a little bit more of, like, the Padawans at the Jedi Temple at the point where they're like, okay, we got to start training everyone for war. And all the students there are like, oh, okay. So that's kind of an interesting time for the Jedi, the younger Jedi. So it's a cool story.
Delilah is one of the authors, her and Alexander Freed, but they're two picks that if they were to do Project Luminous again and they get 5 new authors, I would love it if they were both on that list.
Yeah.
But that's it for Last Week in Star Wars. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel,
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Blue Sky.
and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.